Okay, so this is a demonstration of adding and subtracting negative roots. Anytime you're adding roots, the only time that can happen is if you have exactly the same thing under the square root to make them like terms. Notice here we do not have that. However, with a little simplification, we can get there. So the first thing we want to do is simplify any roots that are there. Notice here the square root of negative 3. We know that that is I root 3. We don't, in simplified form, we don't want to have that negative in there. So we write this as 5I root 3. Typically we write the I in front so that it doesn't accidentally look like it's underneath the radical. If we put it behind, sometimes that can happen. Okay, let's simplify our other root here. Notice we can rewrite 27 as, or negative 27 as negative 9 times 3. When you simplify roots, you want to take out as many perfect squares or numbers with whole number square roots as you can. That's why we separate it this way. The square root of negative 9, recall, is 3i. So we bring out 3i here, and the 3 has to stay in. This 3 here, 3 doesn't have a whole number square root, and it can't be broken down anymore, so it has to stay inside the root. Let's do a little more simplification. I can't do anything else with the 5i root 3 at this point. But here I can take 2 times 3 and get negative 6i root 3. Now I have like terms. I have exactly the same thing under the radical. They're also both I root 3's, so I can combine them. 5 minus 6 is negative 1, so my answer is negative 1i root 3. Or you can just write it as negative I root 3, and the 1 can be implied. Okay, so going back through those steps, you simplify each radical. Okay, we first simplified the negative 3 as I root 3. We simplified negative 27 was the same as negative 9 times 3. The square root of negative 9 is 3i. Put that here, and the other 3 had to stay inside. We multiplied the coefficient that was in front times our 3i to get negative 6i, and then we added our like terms. All right, let's go over to the other then. If you'd like to pause and try it yourself, that would work just fine, or we can just barrel on through. Okay, so our first job is to notice we're not multiplying, because notice we have a symbol here in between. If there's a plus or minus there, that tells you are adding or subtracting the roots rather than multiplying them. So what we need to do is simplify each root. This root here, negative 8. 8 is not a perfect square. However, we can write 8 as 4 times 2. So negative 8 could be negative 4 times 2. And 4 does have a square root. The square root of negative 4 is 2i. And then the root 2, this 2 has to stay in. Minus the square root of negative 2 doesn't happen, but I do need to bring that I out and make it a positive root 2. Do a little more simplification here. 2 times 7 is 14i root 2 minus I root 2. Now they are like terms because they are both I root 2, so I can combine them. I have 14 minus 1 is 13i root 2. And there is our solution.